first out, the Dodgers rotation, and again, we touched on it a little bit before, but this is a rotation that has obviously been decimated by injuries. Glasnow, River Ryan, Gavin Stone. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yamamoto just coming back from injury. They acquired Jack Flaherty at the deadline. I think right now, Dalton, you were saying it before, you kind of feel confident in that going into the playoffs as a 1-2 punch top of the rotation in a playoff series. If they can remain healthy. Right. If they can remain healthy. The question is, what do they do game 3, game 4, especially in a 7-game set? So Dalton, let's talk about this. The Dodgers rotation, what do you think they can piece together? How do we feel about this going into the playoffs?
So I think at this point, you have to hope that Yamamoto and Flaherty stay healthy. And you have to hope that Flaherty can eat some innings. Because Yamamoto, I still don't think is going to be in a position where the Dodgers are going to want to push him to eat a ton of innings.
Right.
And so, like, if you can get a solid 6 out of Flaherty in a game 1,
yeah,
a solid 5 out of Yamamoto in a game 2, I'd feel good about that. Now, our bullpen is a whole other, like, mess that I don't want to even get too deep into. But, looking at some of these other guys, I think right now the number 3 starter's got to be Walker Buehler. And it's tough because Walker Buehler has been kind of a disaster. He's walked 4 or more batters in 4 consecutive starts. I don't think he's somebody who we can really rely on to pitch deep into a game at all. The way I think the Dodgers ought to approach that is you tell Walker Buehler, give me your best 4 innings. And I think what's going to be interesting to see in the postseason is I think behind him, you're going to have a flurry of guys that are starters that are not going to be built all the way back up. There's a chance Gavin Stone pitches in the postseason. There's a decent chance Clayton Kershaw pitches in the postseason. There's a decent chance Tony Gonsolin comes back and pitches for the first time in the postseason. I think the way you go about this is, if you're the Dodgers, is in game 3, you tell Walker Buehler, go out there and get us 4. And then maybe we're going to go to Landon Knack for a couple innings, or Clayton Kershaw for a couple innings, or Tony Gonsolin for a couple innings. And I think ultimately game 4 is going to have to be a bullpen game. So maybe you'll hold Landon Knack back. You let him start game 4. Obviously, if Bobby Miller can learn to locate his pitches again before the postseason, that would be massive. Because with him, the stuff is still there. He just he had no clue where it's going. And so he's either throwing the ball down the middle and giving up homers, or he's walking guys. Right. So I think if Walker Buehler can give us a start like he did last night, where he goes 6 innings, gives up 1 earned. I mean, the 5 walks were not ideal, but he worked around them. An outing like last night would be great, right? I think realistically, though, if he can get us an outing like he did against Baltimore, where it's 4.2 with a run, we just have to get somebody out there in game 3 that's not going to blow up. And part of that for me is I almost think, and I was talking with a couple of my buddies about this, and they think I'm nuts, but the way I think you do it, you have Walker Buehler start the game on the mound. In the first inning, as he starts the game, I would have Landon Knack and Bobby Miller pitching in the bullpen as he starts the game. 3 batters in, if he's walking guys and he doesn't have it, I'm pulling him immediately and going to Landon Knack. If Landon Knack comes in and doesn't have it, I'm going immediately to Bobby Miller.
Wow.
And it's very unorthodox, but the way I think the reason I would like to approach it this way is the bet that you're then making is one of my 3 guys is going to find it in this game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to minimize the damage if I guess wrong to start. I think the best starting guess right now is Buehler. But that's how I would go about it. And if Buehler has it, awesome. You ride Buehler as long as you can, and then I think you start Knack in game 4 with a short leash behind him too. But I think this is going to be a weird postseason for the Dodgers pitching wise. Like I think you're going to have 2 games where you're going with a traditional starting pitcher, and I think everything outside of that is going to be whoever the hell can get a few outs.
Yeah. You're going to look like in game 4 of a series, you're going to look like the Tampa Bay Rays real fast.
Yeah.
It's really going to be an interesting thing.
The other thing I want to touch on, Mike, because you heard me say it a few weeks ago.
I knew you were going to bring it up. I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
Yep. The rumblings are starting. I promise you Shohei Ohtani is going to pitch this October. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know in what capacity, but it's going to happen. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Especially where the Dodgers are, like in this scenario where they just like they can't piece together enough arms to confidently go into a postseason series. Yeah, I don't know that I disagree. And you bring up an interesting theory when it comes to Landon Knack, Bobby Miller, and Walker Buehler. Like, okay, you have Walker Buehler start the game. You got Miller and Knack going in the bullpen. Buehler doesn't have it. Okay, he starts game 4. Like I think that's something that you can kind of work in. Is that okay? Like you bring in Walker Buehler, he throws whatever 23 pitches, walks 3, whatever, and you're just like, okay, like he's available for tomorrow, even if it's not to start. He's available for tomorrow. You know what I mean? And those are the kind of things, I think you're right. I think those are the kind of things that the Dodgers are going to have to piece together to really make this work. On top of that, though, that I think even puts more pressure on Yamamoto and Flaherty to get deep into games so that you're not burning your bullpen in games 1 and 2, right? Because, and listen, postseason, it's all hands on deck. We're not really worried about rest days in the postseason, but like we saw, I mean, the thing that I remember most in the past was like Aroldis Chapman 2016, right? When he was with the Cubs, and they used him every game, multiple innings, and pretty much burnt him for his entire career. Like after that, he just was never the same. Do you find that might be a thing that the Dodgers are going to have to do? Like they're going to have to go, like if Michael Kopech, I'm throwing names. I don't watch the Dodgers bullpen every day, but if Michael Kopech is just burning guys in the postseason, like you're throwing him 45 pitches a night, like, is that the kind of thing you're going to have to do?
You might. Now, it wouldn't be with Kopech because Kopech has exhibited with the Dodgers that, like, if they manage his arm effectively, he's ridiculous. But, like, the few times that they've pushed the envelope on that, it deteriorates. Yeah. So I don't think Kopech's that guy. But, like, Blake Trinan.
Yeah, right.
Like, if Daniel Hudson's pitching well at that time, like, some of these guys – because the Dodgers bullpen has some old dudes back there. Yeah. Dudes who, like – would sell out for a World Series. Like
Joe Kelly is what, 40?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on Joe Kelly. If Dave Roberts manages the Dodger bullpen the way he's been managing it all year, Joe Kelly will pitch in high leverage. We will be knocked out in the DS, no questions asked. Like 100%. So that's the other point I want to make about all of this is like one of the many issues with Dave Roberts, and arguably the one that's most pronounced in the postseason, is that he doesn't react quickly at all. Like he doesn't react. Like he'll sit there. Lance Lynn goes out there, gives up 2 consecutive home runs, and Roberts is kind of just sitting there in the dugout, like there's no read and react. It's just like, oh shit, deer in the headlights. And I think that's going to cost us this year. Like it's the reason why I am absolutely not picking the Dodgers to even make the World Series this year. I would be pleasantly surprised if we do, because this is a postseason that more than almost any other, last year was kind of this way too. We saw how it went. More than almost any other postseason that he's been the Dodgers manager, he is going to have to react exceptionally quickly if the Dodgers are going to advance, because we have so many pitchers on this roster, not just in the rotation, but also in the bullpen, who have had a penchant all year for coming in and just not having it. Like Daniel Hudson, on a lot of occasions this year, comes in, can't find the zone. Yeah. Alex Vesia can't find the zone. Like a lot of these guys, Joe Kelly, who shouldn't even be pitching these games, but he will. He has games where he comes in there and he's just not going to throw you a strike. And so I think like what I worry about is we've had a lot of games this regular season where all of a sudden you look up and the Dodgers have walked 9 batters.
Yeah.
And it's like, that just shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Right.
Like, to me, if I bring a reliever out of the pen and they walk the leadoff guy, like I have somebody warming up immediately. Like I'm not waiting until we're 3 or 4 batters into the inning to figure out that a guy doesn't have it.
And then you got to wait another 2 or 3 for the guy's arm to be loose in the pen, right?
And that's something that Robert said. I mean, last postseason, I've said it before on this show. He allowed Lance Lynn to give up 4 consecutive home runs in a game where you're facing elimination.
Yeah. It's
like,
bizarre.
The sheer of, and this is after he'd been walking guys and clearly didn't have it. The idea that you would let a pitcher allow 4 consecutive homers in a postseason game where you're facing elimination suggests to me that you have money on the other team. There's no other explanation for it because clearly you don't value this game. Like, what are you saving arms for? Tomorrow? Oh man, if we were doing this show last postseason, oh man, it would not have been pretty.
Hey, it's not too late. We still have a whole postseason to get through. So I'm looking forward to it. See, here's the thing. And this is why, like, you know, I like being on the side that I am, right? But it has its good and its bad. But like, I don't want the Dodgers to lose in the postseason because you're my buddy. And I want them to do well. But I also think it would be unbelievably exciting for our show if the Dodgers just totally fuck this whole thing up. We're going to see Joe Kelly in an 8th inning in a 5-4 game where the Dodgers are leading. And I'm just going to get text messages from Dalton like, what the hell is Dave Roberts doing? It's going to be great. I think it's going to be fantastic.
He comes up with a new way to blow my mind every year.
So what will it be this year? What will it be? What will be the new thing this year? He'll pinch hit for Shohei Ohtani this year or something. Because Ohtani's tired or something. I don't know.